Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today from Funko, in their now defunct DC Primal Age line of action figures, we are featuring Krypto the Superdog. Alright, so a while back I reviewed the McFarlane Superman and Krypto action figure, and that kind of sent me down this rabbit hole of searching out other Krypto and Superman action figures. There was a Fisher Price one that I reviewed recently. I'm not sure if I uploaded it yet. It was from the animated feature, was it DC Super Pets from a few years ago? And then I kind of remembered, I'm like, oh yeah, there was that Krypto Funko action figure that came out maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. And I think I might have this in my collection already. I don't remember. A lot of my Masters of the Universe action figures and figures that are kind of like that are kind of like packaged away somewhere. And I know where they are. I just can't get to them. But I found this on sale, well below retail. And I'm like, why not? I'll pull the trigger on this. I wouldn't mind having this, a second copy of this, just because I think it looks really cool. So, if you're unfamiliar with this style of action figure, let me take out the Superman real quick. So maybe, I think it might have been 2018 or 2019. Funko, who are most known for doing Funko Pops, those little soft vinyl statues that you find like everywhere. They dabble in action figures every now and then. Some years back they made a line of Game of Thrones action figures, which were kind of like in the spirit of the Star Wars Black series done by Hasbro. And then they took the gamble and made this line of action figures. They're about 5.5 inches tall, and they're kind of a throwback to the old Mattel Masters of the Universe action figures from the early 80s, and also Remco's line of similar action figures from the 1980s as well. And they adopted that 5.5 inch form factor and produced this really, really retro inspired line of toys, and it was fantastic. Much like Funko Pops, they kind of crossed over different intellectual properties. So you had you had horror themed characters, like Jason, and I think they did Freddy and whatnot. They did a line of video game characters in this similar form factor. They made figures for Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and then they even made DC comic inspired characters, much like the Superman here. And it was great because these figures would blend in almost perfectly with your action figures from the 80s. The DC characters, they kind of adopted a very similar, like, savage, barbarian, feral look, much like the Masters of the Universe figures. But the spin on it was that they were DC superheroes. So, like in the case here, you had Superman, but it's a very, like, Masters of the Universe inspired costume. You kind of have, like, the iron crest on his chest with all the rivets. He has the spiked mace over one fist. He has the fur bikini, much like He-Man. And it was such a great line of action figures. And it was nuts because it came out, I think this line debuted on the shelves maybe at least a year to maybe like a year and a half ahead of the Mattel Masters of the Universe Origins figures, and then also their WWE inspired figures also. So it was wonderful, and it killed me when they ended this line. I think it had to do mostly because of quality control issues, because there were certain figures, I think some of the ones that come to mind, I think maybe like the Mr. Freeze or like the Sub-Zero figure, is that they would break at the dumbbell joint that holds the legs together at the hips. So underneath the crotch piece and the legs, there's a dumbbell joint, and it's knurled on both ends, and it was made of like a harder, almost brittle plastic, and the sockets in the thighs were so tight that when you try to move it, it'd break. So I kind of believe maybe one issue, is that maybe the quality control wasn't there, and maybe that partially killed the line. Maybe it was too expensive to maintain all those license. It's not cheap to get like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, and I'm assuming DC is even more expensive. So maybe they just couldn't afford to keep on making these action figures. But they're nice, and it breaks my heart every time I like handle one, because I really wish the line continued forward, especially since this form factor is very popular right now. You know, Mattel has their Masters of the Universe Origins figures. You know, they've been doing that for many years, and they've been doing the animated versions of the characters. Super 7 dabbled in this style of form factor for a while. On the wrestling end, Power Town, you know, they're doing, you know, they've resurrected the Remco brand, and they're doing wrestlers in the throwback style, much like Mattel is also. So, yeah, if you're like a fan of like He-Man and Masters of the Universe, these figures just really like speak to you. And man, it just, like I said, it breaks my heart that this line is gone. But you know, it's very basic. You know, probably at least 5 to 6 points of articulation. You know, if you're a younger collector, you know, these are the toys that us old folks grew up with. You know, they didn't do a whole lot like the toys you get nowadays. But it's awesome. So this is pretty cool. And let's take out the Krypto. This is Superman's loyal, faithful steed. You know, one of his remaining links to the planet Krypton. The box art is beautiful. You have this incredible comic book inspired illustration here. It's kind of a throwback to the old artwork that you'd get in the Masters of the Universe mini comics that came with the figures in the 80s. And here's the DC Primal Age logo. Krypto looks nice. So if you've handled figures like Battle Cat or Panther in the Masters of the Universe line, this is it's very much done akin to that. You know, it's more of like a figurine or a statue. It's kind of probably like a hollow piece of toy. It's not articulated like the modern Battle Cat is. You know, this is kind of like a real throwback to the original Battle Cat. And on the back, we have the lineup of some of the action figures. You have Luthor, Bizarro, Black Manta, there's Superman, Flash, and there's some other figures that, you know, aren't included on here. Like there was a Mr. Freeze, Green Lantern, a Batman. There was also a Joker. I think Joker had a steed, much like Krypto. And I think there was also a Batman one. I think that might have been based off of Duke the Bat Hound. But yeah, this is something I kind of wish they'd still made. Man, I love this line of toys. It was so cool. All right, let's take this guy out. The nice thing with this line of toys too is that it's very compatible with Masters of the Universe. You know, whether the old school figs or the new ones. And we have Krypto the Superdog. It's Superman's loyal, faithful Kryptonian canine companion. Not much going on in terms of articulation. Like I said, you know, this is a real throwback to the original Battle Cat, which was actually not even like an original toy designed for Masters of the Universe. It was actually pulled from one of Mattel's other toy lines. I think it was, what was it, Big Jim, I think. So he has his cape and has a Superman emblem printed on the back. I believe this does come off. I don't want to... Let me see if I can get it off real quick. If it's not stuck, I don't want to accidentally tear any of the pegs. Yeah, get it off, I think. Yeah, so this comes off. It's kind of cool, too. You take this off, he looks more like a dire wolf. So if you're like a fan of like Game of Thrones and you want a giant dire wolf for Jon Snow, this really fits the bill. You know, or I mean, just in general, if you just want a really cool looking wolf for like any like figure line, you know, it scales really well. You know, here's a Marvel Legends. It looks cool. If you want to like, you know, use it for your McFarlane line and make this Krypto for Superman, again, it's a very large action figure accessory. The detailing's nice. It's a little bit soft. You know, it's not super hard edged. But I think that's more so just kind of like, it really reflects the tooling and the action figure engineering of like the late 70s and early 80s. You know, it's a nice hollow piece of plastic. But it's such a cool looking thing. Again, this thing's, you know, it's pretty cheap on the secondary market. And it looks cool. You know, you throw this on. And then the only downside is that Superman doesn't really, it's not like a saddle. You know, like Battle Cat has a saddle. You know, Panther has a saddle. But this, you kind of just have to like kind of fit it on his back. And the articulation, like I said, isn't the greatest. So it's kind of hard to get his legs spread out correctly if you could. I think it might fit better like without it. Yeah, like that. But yeah, it's great. I love this thing so much. And again, you know, I just love this line of action figures. It kills me that we no longer have the Funko Primal Age stuff. But yeah, I can't recommend this enough. Some of these figures, you know, they're pretty cheap on the secondary market. Just beware, they don't always, the quality control isn't the greatest. I would suggest if you buy any of these, submerge the lower half in hot water just to soften the plastic of the legs. And then once it's soft enough, you should be able to kind of move the legs around. Because if you do it cold, there's a chance you might snap the dumbbell joint that's on the inside. But yeah, excellent line of action figures. And I kind of wish they'd bring it back. So let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.